Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Jets Roundtable. Live Fridays at 1 p.m. EST. We got Matt O'Leary, Jake Gasman, and Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7 as your hosts. The Jets apparently hired their next GM, according to Josina Anderson, but we're still waiting for the official confirmation, so maybe we'll get, hopefully, the official word. Aaron Glenn is the next head coach of the New York Jets. Oh, I am excited to get these guys' thoughts of all the stuff that we're hearing across the space of the New York Jets. Let's get into it. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring today's show as always. Matt O'Leary, welcome back, brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It feels like we know now who both the GM and the head coach is going to be. I know that it's not maybe technically official, but Josina Anderson's been pretty much on the money throughout this whole cycle, so I feel like this is going to happen. There's been some other reports saying, like, yeah, this has kind of been in the works for the last 24 hours or so. So I'm excited. I'm ready to break it down with you guys.
Jake, welcome to the show, my friend. Is he the new GM? Like, are you trusting this report or what?
It's likely going to happen. I'm just always weary, especially after what happened with Liam Cohen last night, until you get like a couple other people confirming it. But I wouldn't be surprised. It feels like he's the guy. He's got the connection to Sean Payton. We know Aaron Glenn's mentor is Sean Payton. So it makes sense. Now we just got to hope if it is this Mougey character, he is good and does a lot better than 30-64, which was Joe Douglas's record over almost 6 years as the Jets GM.
30-64. Wow. Ryan, fresh out of work. How you doing, bro?
Pretty good. Excited to see these, blocks start to fall and the Jets starting to hire GM, head coach. We can finally start anticipating what things are going to look like. I don't know. I think this is probably true. Josina Anderson seems to have a pretty good feel for the inside of the Jets organization. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and Zach Rosenblatt went out there and said something, and his words were, the Jets have not informed anybody, right? So, but Josina's saying that the Jets have made their decision. So we shall see. Josina Anderson, like Matt said, she was first on the Ben Johnson news, and she mentioned Pete Carroll yesterday. Now Pete Carroll is a Raiders coach. So we'll see. You never know. But we're going to run with it until proven otherwise. But before we get into Darren Mougey, let's talk about something that is official. Talk about that something is guaranteed because it's an inked contract, 5-year deal. Aaron Glenn, okay? He is the next Jets head coach. He's coming home, ladies and gentlemen. So let's start off with you, Matt. We've had a few days to digest it. AG is the next Jets head coach. How are you feeling about it, man?
Yeah, it's exciting when a former player comes back to coach the team, and there's been some recent success with that, with just where he came from in Detroit with Dan Campbell and D'Amico Ryans with the Texans. So I'm hoping that Aaron Glenn has that same kind of success and can get the Jets back to the playoffs. I'm hoping that Aaron Glenn comes in and isn't just your prototypical, defensive coordinator made head coach and focuses too much on the defensive side of the ball. At least with what we've heard from him, it seems like he wants to be more of that CEO style of head coach. And I hope that rings true because I think the Jets desperately need that. And they need a leader too. And I think the leadership qualities that Glenn displayed throughout his coaching career, not just in Detroit, factor in a great deal with why he was hired to be the next head coach.
Yeah, you love the feel-good story. Like whether it's going to work or not, we'll see. Time will tell. But the fact that he was drafted here and he has ties to the organization, he wanted the job, it's just a feel-good story and a big congratulations to him and his family for getting the job, number one. Jake, your overall thoughts and reactions now. We've had a few days to digest it. AG is our next head coach. What's your level of optimism that he will actually be successful, which is, you can argue, one of the hardest jobs in the NFL, being a head coach of the Jets?
Cautiously optimistic. It's yet another first-timer from that side of the ball. Not saying it can't work, but I'm just cautiously optimistic because we've seen this so many times. And until the Jets start actually winning, they just don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. They have the longest playoff drought in sports, haven't won more than 7 games in a decade. They haven't won a division title in over 20 years. So I love Aaron Glenn, and what he brings as far as the leadership skills. I love what his teammates have said about him that played with him on the Jets. I love what people that have coached with him have said, his players he coached in the Lions, what they have said. It makes sense to hire him. He's certainly qualified. I just wanted someone with previous coaching experience to get this job. And obviously Aaron Glenn doesn't have that. Doesn't mean he can't be good, but I'm taking a wait and see approach. And as a Jet fan, I would love nothing more than for Aaron Glenn to be the guy and could finally turn this franchise around.
Yeah, I feel like cautiously optimistic has been my approach with this too, because you never know. We're always hyped up about a new hire. Besides Adam Gase, nobody liked that hire. But you know what I'm trying to say here. Ryan, your overall reaction, AG is officially here. We're going to hear from him on Monday to get introduced as the next Jets head coach. How you feeling about it, bro?
Yeah, cautiously optimistic, I think, is a good term. It's, again, a hire, first-time head coach on the defensive, or coming from the defensive side of the ball. Not that it can't work. Obviously, you see Dan Quinn coming. Oh, I guess he wasn't necessarily a first-time head coach, but defensive coaches do wind up winning in this league. I think the love for it is definitely him being a former player for us, played at a high level, coached and learned under some of the best guys to ever do it in the league, Bill Parcells, Sean Payton. I think those are really good connections, obviously, to have and lean on. I think a lot of emphasis is going to be put on who he puts around him, the coordinators that are going to be in their place. So that way he can focus on leading these guys and not necessarily, one particular side of the team. I am a little bit concerned having, if you removed Aaron Glenn's name and you made it some random person's name, would we be feeling good about that today? I would say probably not. But cautiously optimistic, I think, is the correct approach. And like Jake mentioned, not giving the Jets the benefit of the doubt. I want to see some winning. The 5-year contract to me does seem to imply that 2025 might be a little bit more of a rough season, and then it kind of really hits the ground running in 2026.
Yeah, that's the first domino to fall in a large, massive offseason for the New York Jets head coach. Now we feel like we got our next GM. Next question's quarterback. Are we extending Garrett Wilson? Are we going to trade this guy? So there's so much. I mean, this is like the biggest offseason in Jets history, it feels like, in my life, based off of the expectations that we came off of last year. And now we just have a recalibration. We finally have new leadership in the building. And I feel like the approach that the Jets had to get AG before the GM was unorthodox, but do you guys think that was a smart decision? Because I'm reading between the tea leaves here. Lance Newmark and Aaron Glenn were in the building together. AG gets the job the day after. And then we find out the two finalists doesn't even include Lance Newmark. And it's Trey Brown and Darren Mougey. And now we're hearing Darren Mougey's probably getting the job. So that tells me these are Aaron Glenn's guys. So to that, Matt, what's your thoughts of Aaron Glenn? Is he pulling the strings where he has a lot of control now in terms of is he going to have his hands on personnel? He comes from scouting background as well. Do you think he's handpicking Darren Mougey potentially to be the GM?
I do. I think there is a connection there. Obviously, he's worked pretty closely with Sean Payton the last 2 years, and Sean Payton and Aaron Glenn are very tight. They have a strong relationship. So I would not be surprised at all if Aaron Glenn either reached out to Sean Payton to inquire, or maybe Payton recommended him to Aaron Glenn. But with Glenn getting hired first and with the scouting background, I do believe that he is going to have a lot of say. Now, first-time head coach with having a lot of say in the roster is a little nerve-wracking for sure. But I think the Jets really want him to kind of be their version of what Kyle Shanahan is with the 49ers and what Pete Carroll was with the Seahawks when they hired a coach to essentially be the face of the franchise. And I think that's what the Jets are trying to do here, at least with Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, it definitely feels like he's going to have a lot of control. Jake, your thoughts of hiring Aaron Glenn before the GM and now seeing that Darren Mougey is rumored to be the guy?
It's also, I think, in part why they have to do this because of the Lions getting eliminated as quickly as they did, right? I think they didn't want Aaron Glenn to go to the Saints. So it feels like they were like, let's just get Glenn in place and we'll find the GM candidate that can work with him because he's considered such a top candidate. There'll be people that want to work with him. So I understand, I guess, the thought process of why they're doing it the way they're doing it. It's just, once again, a lot of responsibility for a guy who's never been a head coach before, that he's basically going to be hand selecting the GM candidate he wants to work with, because they're not going to hire anyone that Aaron Glenn is not on board with. They're making him the face of the organization, it sounds like. So it's very similar to Pete Carroll when he went to the Seahawks. It's very similar to the power Kyle Shanahan had as an unproven head coach when he brought John Lynch with him to San Francisco. You saw Harbaugh get to pick his GM a year ago with the Chargers. They were going to let Vrabel do this, so you're just basically doing the same thing, just with Aaron Glenn, in this role as a first-time coach, picking who he's going to work with as the GM.
Yeah, it's very rare you see a first-time rookie head coach have this much power. Ryan, is there a lot of risk with that you feel like giving AG this much power in terms of like handpicking his GM, like to
No,
start off?
no, I'm not concerned at all because Woody Johnson is a clown, and I have more faith in Aaron Glenn selecting his prospective GM based on his connections he's had around the league. And I think this is very clearly, as Matt mentioned, the Sean Payton connection. The last 2 years in Denver, I think Sean Payton is a great football mind, and being able to feed from that is important. Not to mention Mougey has been there since 2012, so he's worked with a laundry list of different head coaches in that time: John Fox, Gary Kubiak, Vance Joseph, Vic Fangio, Nate Hackett, and then obviously Sean Payton right now. So there's a list of guys that you could kind of tap, and he has that inner working knowledge of those relationships as well. I feel like the Broncos have done a pretty good job of drafting in his time with them. So I think this is a pretty sound swing of the bat at GM if you had to go the first time route.
We're live on the Jets Roundtable on the AFC East Roundtable YouTube channel with Matt, Jake, Ryan, and myself, Richie. If you guys can do us a favor, simply smash a like button right now. Let's get this to well over 100 likes. Today's a big day for the Jets while they are on their way to find their new GM. Also, do me a huge favor. Simply subscribe to all these gentlemen's YouTube channels, Matt O'Leary's channel, Jake Asman's channel, Ryan's channel, and the Talking Jets channel, and Green Beans too, please, while you're at it. So we appreciate everybody supporting us here. This is a show we do live every Friday at 1 p.m. EST. For whoever the gentleman that can make it, we're excited to continue this as we move forward. So when it comes to Darren Mougey, I mean, this is a guy that the Jets interviewed, and I feel like he wasn't really high on a lot of Jets fans' wish lists. And maybe that's what we needed. Right? We got the guy, the head coach that we all wanted, but maybe we didn't really look at the GM. Was Darren Mougey on any of your guys' radar throughout this entire GM process? And it's okay if it's because it wasn't on mine. I'll be completely honest. Jake, Matt, Ryan shaking his head no. Was he on your guys' radar? So what about his resume intrigues you? Anybody that wants to take that? Like, what about him have you learned that you feel like is an intriguing quality that it can bring to the Jets, besides being 6'6"?
So for me, it's definitely the relationship with a bunch of coaches over the course of that time and the Sean Payton connection. I think having the assistant general manager title for the last, 3-4 years with the Broncos is solid at the very least. So he's come up through the ranks. I like that he has a scouting background. I think him and Glenn will work well together in that respect. But yeah, aside from that, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice, but I think you lean heavily on the relationships that both Glenn have and Mougey have.
He's also coming off firsthand experience of drafting a quarterback in the first round and going to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. And he's an assistant GM. He is the assistant GM, comes from scouting. So I'm going to assume he scouted Bo Nix and had a lot of positive things to say about him. Obviously, Bo Nix had a good rookie season. We got to see if he will continue to be the face of that Denver Broncos organization. So he does seem to have an eye for talent. Another fun fact, he was college roommates with Kevin O'Connell, the potential coach of the year coming up. They went to college, I believe, together, and they're really close. And some people look at Darren Mougey as the Kevin O'Connell as version of a GM. That's what I've heard some people. So, Matt, what's your thoughts of Darren Mougey and what you've learned from him based off your research so far?
Yeah, I think something that stands out that I hope he can take with him from Denver to here is if you look at an unfortunate mistake on their side, they trade a bunch of draft picks for Russell Wilson. It doesn't work out. And, he has a monster cap hit. They have, big dead money. And they were able to put a successful roster on the field, even with all those cap issues that they had and lack of draft picks as well from the trade. So I'm hoping maybe that's something that, Mougey could have picked up on from his time in Denver, because I think, whether it's this year or next year, the Jets are going to have to take on some dead cap money eventually with Aaron Rodgers. And, if they're able to remain competitive through that, I think that'd be huge. So that's one of the things that stood out to me.
Based off your research, Jake, what have you learned from Darren Mougey that intrigues you as the next Jets GM? You're muted, Jake.
Sorry about that. I had some sirens outside my window here.
New York City, baby.
You know it. The fact that, to what Matt was talking about, he's been there as the Broncos ended their long playoff drought, oversaw the turnaround there where they drafted a quarterback and were able to deal with the cap stuff, I think is important. And then, he's seemingly a fast riser. Like, you look at his experience, and there was a new regime that was brought into Denver, and he got promoted out of it. Like, George Payton promoted him from like a scout to like an assistant GM. So, he's an impressive candidate. I can't pretend like I know a ton about him, though. I mean, he's not a name that I was circling before all this and going, yep, you got to hire him. I wanted experienced candidates for both coach and GM, and it feels like we're about to hire first timers. So I guess no one truly knows. So you see how they do it with the job.
Based off what I've been hearing of people talking about Darren Mougey, and I did not know anything about this guy until we first interviewed him. So I've been doing some research, and apparently he has a presence about him within the Denver Broncos organization where he walks around and like there's some type of like sense like, yeah, that's a rising star. And there's even a Broncos fan, I'm just going to say, that was in my chat right when Darren Mougey news broke. He's like, you guys got a rising star. Like, he's us Denver Broncos fans love him. He's always part of some, press conferences with the actual GM. And Jake, you said something interesting, which is what I wanted to talk about with you guys next. The Jets are going an untraditional route from a perspective of first-year head coach, first-year GM. The last time the Jets did that was Todd Bowles and Mike McCagnon. We know how that ended. Is this the wrong approach? Because I felt like, I put my hand up and said the Jets need to get experience in the building at one of the two positions. They decided to go rookie head coach, rookie GM. So we're going to hope at least that they're going to bring in some type of senior advisor in the front office. And there's Steve Wilks is rumored to be the defensive coordinator who has head coaching experience. So Ryan, I'll kick it over to you. Is there a level of worry because these guys both are first-year head coach, first-year GM?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's got to be some level of concern. I mean, you look at the Broncos prior to the Bo Nix draft, there was a lot of swings and misses from the quarterback position. They could not find a quarterback outside of Peyton Manning for what felt like, a decade or two after Elway and I guess Plummer and some of those guys, Cutler for a little bit. So definitely some degree of concern. It looks like he was promoted prior to Sean Payton getting to Denver. I don't know who that regime would have been, but 2022 is when he took over the assistant general manager role. So at least he's been able to see different head coaches and how they would operate within that kind of framework. I think the trade for Russell Wilson was a very cool thing to bring up because we are very similar situation with Aaron Rodgers and everything going on there. So I think he's seen a bunch of the hurdles that come from trading for a star quarterback and some of the inner workings that are confusing too. Because remember, Russell Wilson's time in Denver, he had his own office. It was like a very weird dynamic going on in the locker room. And I think that is a very important frame of reference to consider when looking at Mougey and Glenn and their perspectives. So
we have some breaking NFL news. Bobby Slowick, who the Jets interviewed to be their next head coach, fired at the offensive coordinator position. Oh my gosh. I mean,
whoops.
Wow.
Jake, I'll kick this to you. You covered Houston. So what's your initial reaction to this?
This is part of the reason why I was so anti-Slowick when I heard his name. He did a terrible job this year. Like, CJ Stroud took a huge step back, and people will say, oh, well, the O-line wasn't as good. They were healthier on the O-line this year than they were last year. People don't realize that. And the biggest issue Texans fans had with Slowick, they never made any adjustments. Like, the Texans were always outcoached in the second half of games, and people put that on Slowick, and I guess D'Amico agreed because 1 year after this guy was a hot name in the coaching carousel, the Jets were the only team to request an interview with him this go-around. Now he's out of a job in Houston. So to answer the question someone in the chat might have, no, the Jets should not hire him as their next offensive coordinator.
I was going to ask Matt that question because I know Matt wants him so bad. Right, Matt? You don't want to bring in Bobby Slowick?
Yeah, I know I've notoriously been pounding the drum for Bobby Slowick to get the Jets job, but no, I don't think that's the direction that I would go for the Jets. Really weird fall from grace, right? Like just a year ago, he had CJ Stroud really humming in year one and they were overachieving. But I thought it had a really poor season this past year. And clearly, I think D'Amico sees the need for a change to this offense. O-line coach is also out. So I think we're going to see some major changes as the Texans, want to make sure that CJ Stroud is more like the rookie year version of himself and not like year two. I don't know where he ends up. Maybe Tampa Bay now after Liam Cohen was going to go back and then not, and now going to Jacksonville. But no, I wouldn't touch him either if I'm the Jets.
So my brain now is going to does not help the Jets a little bit, just because with the Liam Cohen news leaving Tampa, that opens up an offensive coordinator position there. Now with this news, it opens up an offensive coordinator job over there. And the Jets are looking for their own offensive coordinator, which you can argue is the most important hire that Aaron Glenn's going to make. We've heard a lot of rumblings of who the Jets are targeting. Is there going to be more competition? Nick Haley is a guy that is very highly apparently rumored to get the job for the Jets, as well as Clint Kubiak is another name. Mark Brunell, who I think may get the Lions offensive coordinator position to replace Ben Johnson. So where do you guys feel like the Jets are going to go at OC? And does this news hurt their chances to get the hottest guy out there? Because these guys can either work with CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield, or come to the Jets where we don't even have a quarterback in place outside of Aaron Rodgers. So Jake, I'll kick it to you. What's your latest on the Jets offensive coordinator search?
I truly hope it's one of the two guys that have been linked to the job so far, Clint Kubiak, because he has previous play calling experience. It's also in his family. So I would like that a lot. He did a good job in Minnesota when he was the OC there. Matt, I think it was your video I was watching recently on that. You did a good job kind of outlining the efficiency he had then. And then even with Derek Carr before he got hurt, they had an offense that I think scored 24 points a game, which is above average when he was the play caller there. So Kubiak, I'm interested in. And then the other name that you're hearing is Nick Caley, who's the pass game coordinator for the Rams. Anyone from Sean McVay excites me. I mean, they seemingly all are good and know how to call plays. So those are the two names I like out of what's been out there so far.
Fun fact about Nick Caley that I learned that made me want the Jets to hire him even more. Something him and Aaron Glenn have in common. He said no to the Patriots.
Hell yeah.
The Patriots wanted him as the OC last year, and Nick Caley's like, no, I'm not going to that dysfunctional mess. I love it. Hire the guy. Come on. I also love Clint Kubiak. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I'm also a huge fan of Sean McVay. He's always been my favorite coach in the league outside of the Jets, of course. I don't think I've ever had a favorite coach in the Jets, but I've always admired Sean McVay, and I feel like he just has a pipeline of offensive coaches underneath him. Ryan, where do you think the Jets should go, where they will go at OC? And is this Houston news and the Liam Cohen news in Tampa ruin their chances to get the hottest name?
I think both those openings, the Texans and the Buccaneers, will impact it in some capacity, because I do think the quarterback situations are much better there. They're both defensive head coaches. So the offensive coordinator that goes into those roles, much like here, is going to shine through if that offense produces. And you kind of already have that leg up by having a good quarterback there and some established, players around them. I think for the Jets, though, I think we do definitely have the inside track on Clint Kubiak. If you look at his resume, he did overlap with Mougey in Denver as an offensive assistant. So, and again, as a passing game coordinator in 2022 and quarterbacks coach. So I think there's a lot of connections that'll be in place for the Jets if they do want to go that route. And I don't know if he necessarily fills the role of, the Texans or the Bucs quite as well as he might fill in for the Jets. So I would say it impacts us to some degree, but I'm not overly concerned.
And Matt, you're all in on Clint Kubiak. Would you be happy with Nick Caley as well, or you feel like it's boom or bust with him?
No, I think Nick Caley would be I'm muted. Sorry. I think Nick Caley would be the next best option there for the New York Jets. Clint Kubiak's my number one choice. I just like the work that he did with both the Vikings and the Saints when he had his QB1 healthy. But Caley's someone who I think is interesting. Obviously working under Sean McVay the last 2 years, I think boosts his case. I know the Jets interviewed him after they moved on from LaFleur. I wasn't as interested then because he was just a tight end coach with the Patriots, but spend a couple years with McVay. Hope you picked something up like seemingly everyone else who's come out of there has done and get to work over here. I think that's probably their number one option. I've seen a few people report that Aaron Glenn wants Nick Caley the most.
I want Nick Caley as well, just as much as I want Clint Kubiak. We just gifted 5 members of the AFC's Roundtable. Congratulations to Jed Life, Seba Ode, Bobbleneck, Christian, and Haley, all gifted members. I hope all 5 of you are Jets fans. That's what I'm going to say, because I know we have a lot of non-Jets fans in the chat right now. Why don't you let us know what fan base you're representing right now. Congratulations to the members. I was just gifted by the AFC East Roundtable ourselves to get it in the building. All right, you guys can use some emojis of all your favorite logos of the AFC's Roundtable and the host here at the AFC's Roundtable with my face included. So the rumor is Steve Wilks is the defensive coordinator, and even on Wikipedia, it's confirmed. And Sports Illustrated apparently is like, yeah, it's done. I didn't see anything say it's done, right? It's not confirmed, but I think they're just running with the reports. Is Steve Wilks a good option for the New York Jets at DC? I personally think so because he has head coaching experience, and I think that's very valuable for a first-timer like Aaron Glenn in particular. So what's your guys' thoughts of Steve Wilks as a potential defensive coordinator? I'll start off with you, Jake.
Steve Wilks would excite me. He's been a head coach before, I guess technically twice, right, as the interim as well in Carolina. It would allow Aaron Glenn to just coach the defense or to coach the whole team and trust that he has a guy in Wilks that could handle the defense. So I'd like it. My big thing is experience, and guys with previous head coaching experience, I think should matter for a first-time coach. So Steve Wilks, 100% love that. My dream is Rex, but I doubt Rex would be willing to be a DC, and I don't know how Aaron Glenn would feel about that. But they have overlap before. When Glenn was hired by Tannenbaum as a scout, Rex was still the head coach for 2 more years that Glenn was with the organization. And, there's a ton of photos online of Aaron Glenn and Rex during those years. Plus, Rex Ryan's son, Seth, he was a coach on that Lions staff on offense. So, maybe there's more of a relationship there than we realize, but that's just me dreaming as a Jet fan. Steve Wilks would be fine, though. I'd like that hire.
Rex Ryan, the other candidate that has head coaching experience, because that's what is rumored to be the type of guy that Aaron Glenn wants. We'll see. Ryan, you think it's Steve Wilks, or you actually think that there's a chance for Rex, sexy Rexy, back?
I mean, I think it would be cool to have Rex back in the building. I'm, lukewarm on that idea. I'm kind of lukewarm on Wilks too. I think the former head coach experience is about the best thing I can kind of lean on from Wilks. His resume is a little bit of an odd thing to look at. Usually when you look at an employee's resume, when they hop jobs every year or like every other year, it's a little concerning. And he's had a crazy ton of stops where he's only spent a year or 2 years. And I do think that is concerning. Why was that the case? His best stretch was during the Super Bowl year with the Carolina Panthers. He drafted Josh Rosen and then was fired after 1 year, in Arizona. So maybe he's got some experience on things like what not to do. So I'm not crazy high on Steve Wilks, but I'm not going to be overly concerned about it because Aaron Glenn could ultimately step in on the defensive side of the ball, and you're going to have less control as a defensive coordinator than as a head coach for Wilks. So I would say lukewarm on it. Rex would be fun, maybe a little more volatile, but I don't know. I'm fine with it. I'm more interested on the offensive side of the ball, to be honest.
How about you, Matt? Who do you want at DC? Who do you think is going to get it?
I do think it's going to be Steve Wilks, and I like that thought because, as we've mentioned here, he does have the head coaching experience. Not very long, for that 1 year, his first in Arizona, he was one and done. Although he was the interim in Carolina and finished 6-6 in the final 12 games, which I think is pretty impressive when you consider the circumstances at the time. I thought he had a really nice year, his last year in the league as a defensive coordinator in San Francisco a couple years ago. They were a top 10 unit in the sport. And I think he's better as a defensive coordinator than he is a head coach. I just think when you're a young first-time head coach, which is what you have in Aaron Glenn, then you need someone that you can lean on. And supposedly there's a couple names, not only Steve Wilks, but Todd Haley on the offensive side of the ball is another name who's at least been a head coach before and maybe someone you can lean on when times get tough.
Mike Westhoff rumored to be part of the Jets coaching staff just from an advisor role in training camp. We were hoping maybe he's back at special teams, which would be sick. I mean, Joe McKnight was my favorite Jet growing up. And rest in peace, Joe McKnight. Absolutely miss you, man. And I feel like the job that he's done with Leon Washington, all those guys, is just like they just breeded kick returners. And if he's going to be having an advisor role, is this the first time we're getting a new special teams coordinator? Is Brant Boyer out? Because he survived 3 coaching staffs, Brant Boyer. Do you guys think he's out, Brant Boyer, this year?
I do. I think Boyer's probably gone. There's tons of coaching staffs. I don't think Westhoff's going to have a real strong role with us. An advisory role would be probably about as much as I see. He's had some pretty bad health issues. I did see Chris Banjo's name, or if that's the correct pronunciation of that, rumored to be potentially a special teams coordinator. He's from that Broncos staff as well. He's the assistant special teams coordinator since 2023. That would be someone that I think the Jets could potentially lean on. And if he has the advice of someone like Mike Westhoff, I think that's a good combination for me.
You guys think Brant Boyer's out for the first time in 3 phases of coaching cycles, Matt?
I do. I think he took an interview in San Francisco, so they could just run it back with the Jets' old staff with Saleh at DC and Brant Boyer at special teams coordinator. I just think it was time. He had some good years here. Westhoff, obviously a legend, one of the best special teams coaches to ever do it. And I'm excited to have him around that training camp and giving, his advice on both the hire and, just working with everyone in training camp. I think Darren Rizzi's a name to watch if he doesn't get either the Saints or Raiders job here. Obviously, him and Aaron Glenn had that connection when Glenn was there as a positional coach. So that would be my prediction for who the Jets special teams coach is.
How about you, Jake? Any news on special teams coming out that you've heard?
Chris Banjo, if I'm saying his name properly, some overlap with Glenn. I think he's with Denver right now. That's another name. But anytime you can get Westhoff involved in whatever capacity, that's awesome. So I was very happy to hear that.
I agree, man. So I feel like it's just a matter of time until we figure out the official news of Darren Mougey. And the fact that, Aaron Glenn is here officially, this is the conversation we have to have, folks, because this is the next domino is Aaron Rodgers. Just remove the last interviewed part of the graphic because this graphic was made weeks ago. But is Aaron Rodgers back? We've heard from Keyshawn Johnson, who is a teammate of Aaron Glenn, say absolutely not. We've heard Michael Kay say on the radio, say that he's heard that Aaron Glenn would prefer Aaron Rodgers. Jake, what do you think is going to happen? Is Aaron Rodgers returning to the New York Jets?
I hope so. That's what I want to have happen. I'm not as confident that I think it will happen, but I hope so. I think he's their best option. I think he gives them the best chance to win. I think he would be willing to take a pay cut to minimize the future dead cap ramifications. I think you sell it on you're bringing Aaron back, but you're also getting Devontae back in that scenario. And that's another reason why I want Aaron back, because you want from Aaron. I can't see Devontae here without him. And I think Aaron Glenn's best chance to restore culture and have a winning season and get players to buy in is to win games. And I think Aaron Rodgers has proven that he is still able to be a competent quarterback. He's not what he was, but he also, I think, played better than what the overall Jet record this year would indicate. So there's a lot of moving pieces. He could retire. Maybe he's not on board with learning a new offense. And if that's the case, okay, you move on. But, I want him back. I hope Aaron Glenn agrees as well.
How about you, Matt? What's your gut say? What do you think AG is going to say? And what do you want?
I think Aaron Rodgers retires. I'm going to stick with that. Just how that final game ended, it felt very final to me. Like that was the end of the line for him. But in order for Rodgers to come back, I think it has to be a little conditional. Like I think he needs to take a pay cut. I think he would need to be willing to run whatever offense the new offensive coordinator is going to call, whether that's Kubiak or Kaley or whoever. I just don't want want the Jets rather to run back. It's going to be like the Aaron Rodgers show again and kind of let him call the plays at the line of scrimmage and, force feed it to Devontae Adams 20 times a game. If he's willing to come back, take the pay cut, just kind of be that bridge guy for a year and not be the, hey, we're going to push for a championship and, bring back Alan Lazard and all his buddies. Then I think the Jets are probably good with that. So, TBD, but I still lean no that he's not coming back.
Ryan, is he coming back or not? Aaron.
So I think everyone involved is going to say they want Aaron back, and they're just going to keep pounding that table. And, I think they'll kind of leave it up to Aaron if he wants to retire. I do feel like I don't know. I felt stronger at the end of the season that he was going to retire. I feel less, now, I guess, but there's not really any rational reason for.
That's how I felt though, Ryan, because the last time we heard him speak on McAfee, he didn't sound like a guy who was retired, and he sounded more retired going into that last game and how it ended. So I think you feel that way because he didn't sound like a retired guy. The last time we heard him speak, he said he's going to talk to the new regime and they'll go from there. Like he didn't sound like, I got to figure my stuff out first. Like sounded like hey, I want to play. Just tell me you want me. Like that was kind of like the vibe I got.
And
Yeah,
what do you
and
think the
I think
timeline is of it? Like, how
I
fast
mean,
will we find this out?
it'll definitely be by free agency. He'll let us know. I would think there's going to be a lot of, the scouting department's going to be looking at the quarterbacks in the draft. They're going to be looking in free agency for potential options. If you operate under the worst case scenario, it would be, I would think, Rodgers retiring and eating all that dead cap this year. So in the event he does want to come back, you have your quarterback. Your cap is not going to be as critical as it would have been if he retired. You have to rework Devontae Adams' contract and change how his cap hits obviously look. And I think it's the right way to go about it. You don't want to give the opinion that like, oh, you might be willing to move off of them or anything along those lines. I just think it's, best to run it back with Aaron, bring back Morgan Moses, bring back Devontae Adams, try to run it back with a good team and just try to plug in the holes. Now, if you want to draft a quarterback in the first or second round, if one presents itself that you like, I endorse that. If Rodgers doesn't come back, I'm kind of okay if they bottom out a season and kind of address it in 2026. But I think Aaron comes back and we try to win some games next year.
We got just under 700 people live watching on YouTube right now, almost 2,000 congruent across X and YouTube. Folks, hit the like button right now and subscribe here to the AFC East Roundtable. We are live here on this channel every Friday at 1 p.m. EST, and we're excited to continue this all off season long, man. Let's get to at least 200 likes, and I'm going to remind you guys, please, subscribe to Jake Asman and to Matt O'Leary and to my boy Jets Talk 24/7's channel. We appreciate you guys big time. And go over to their channels, Dolphins fans. Give them the energy that I have to deal with, okay? No offense to you three, but you guys got to deal with it, okay? It's only fair for you guys to have to deal with the rivals in the chat as much as I do, all right? So we talked about mostly are on the page of Rodgers coming back, but let's flip it around. Rodgers is not back, right? Hypothetical, which is possible. Where do the Jets go? I've heard Justin Fields' name. Immediate reaction when you hear that name. Are you guys jumping for joy? Yeah, let's get Justin Fields, and he's the next Sam Darnold, next Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield. He needs another shot. Or are you no shot, I want Justin Fields? Or is there another free agent that you'd like? Or is there a guy you want to trade for? Or is it Tyrod Taylor? I mean, there's a lot of options. Hypothetically speaking, Aaron Rodgers retires. Where do the Jets go at quarterback? Matt, I'll start with you.
I think Tyrod would be here and get a realistic chance to start. I think Jordan Travis would be here, and I think they'd add one more veteran. I don't know if it's going to be Justin Fields. I mean, now that you brought in Aaron Glenn, maybe Jameis Winston. They overlapped in New Orleans. Jameis is a lot of fun. He's very volatile. Like 1 week he'll throw for 400 yards. The next week he'll have 5 picks. I don't know if I like him as a starter over a guy like Tyrod Taylor, but it's tough because Tyrod has the injury history, but I think when he plays, he's a decent quarterback. But you're going to need some other veteran insurance, whoever that is. And maybe they do want to see what they have in Jordan Travis. I'm not holding my breath there because of the injury, but we haven't got to see anything from him yet.
Throw a dart. Phew. Jake, your thoughts of where the Jets will go if Aaron does decide to retire?
Throw a dart at Jackson Dart, baby.
Yeah.
Look, I definitely could see them taking someone end of the first round and trade back in, like what the Ravens did, or day 2. But I think Tyrod would probably be the favorite if that were to happen, and then they'd sign someone else as well. I don't view Jordan Travis as anyone that is a part of this conversation right now until we at least see what he's like. If he's out there in OTAs and minicamp healthy, because he has yet to complete an NFL practice yet. So I don't really consider him. I mean, just going through it, though, the options stink. Like, I know Justin Fields' name is brought up. Like, okay. But I think there's going to be a lot of teams who might be in on him. So I think it's going to end up being Tyrod. He's under contract. Players love him. No one has a bad thing to say about him. He's been in a bunch of different systems in his career. The concern with him, though, he can't stay healthy through a full year. So you better get a plan at number 2 because Tyrod is not making it through 17 games if that's the direction they go on.
Fun fact, Aaron this year was like the first time since Ryan Fitzpatrick, or how long since we had a quarterback play all season, which is shocking. So we'll see if it is Tyrod. I'm going to ask you the Justin Fields question, Ryan, because I keep hearing him in particular. Would you be on board for Justin Fields?
I'd be all right with it. I don't know if it necessarily, prevents you from drafting a guy. I think it kind of depends how they view Jordan Travis. I think there's a world where you have 4 quarterbacks going into camp and Jordan Travis is either relegated to the practice squad or maybe cut if it's not, convenient for the new staff coming in. Fields obviously has a connection with Jeremy Ruckert and Garrett Wilson. So there's, a little bit of, sort of a vibe there, I guess. But I don't know if it's necessarily a great swing of the bat. If they want to go the draft route, there's going to be a lot of guys that I do think elevate towards the first round. Jackson Dart's one of those guys. The quarterback from Syracuse I've seen get a lot of love. So I think you could see, an option there for the Jets if they want to go the draft route. If we go with Fields and Tyrod starts, I do think Fields ultimately plays at some point because, like Jake mentioned, Tyrod just doesn't stay healthy. And then if you want to, look at 2026 for a quarterback, I'm fine with that. I think if we were to trade up in the draft this year, I would just not give up that 2026 first in any kind of maneuver that you're looking to do.
Yeah, the Justin Fields stuff really I just hope they don't go that direction. Let's be straight up with you guys. If we get him, I'll be rooting for him. I just don't know if I want to take a flyer on someone like that. But we shall see. We've seen quarterbacks like Justin Fields fail and eventually prosper on other organizations. I think there's a lot of options that the Jets are going to be looking at. And now that we know that Darren Mougey is rumored to be the next Jets GM, it's all up to him to make the decision himself. All right. Now, I definitely want to get your guys' thoughts about something because this is the AFC East Roundtable. And there is a team playing this Sunday that is part of this division, the AFC East. The Buffalo Bills are representing in the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Woo! All right. So you guys in the chat, let us know who you guys got winning the AFC Championship. You got the Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs. If you guys want to check out BetUS Sportsbook, they have the odds right here for you guys. You want to take advantage of a 150% bonus on your first deposit. Use the promo code YouTube150 when you sign up today to get a 150% sign-up bonus, 125% on your next two. That's up to $2,000. Big time shout out to BetUS for being the proud sponsor of Roundtable Sports. The Bills are a +1 on the road in Arrowhead. And then you also have a 6-point line. And you have the NFC East representing big time in the NFC, the Commanders and Eagles. That's going to be a wild game as well. Very excited for these two matchups. I want to start off with you, Jake. Who do you got in both of these games, the NFC Conference Championship and the AFC Conference Championship?
It's a square pick, but I like both favorites. I do think Washington covers. Like, I would take the points. I think it's going to be a real game. I don't know. I have a tough time picturing a rookie quarterback doing it, even though Jaden Daniels is not playing like a rookie. And then the second game, I can't stand the Bills, but I genuinely think Kansas City's going to win. It's one of those. I'm done picking against the Chiefs. I didn't think they would be able to do it this year. Now I'm right back to picking them when it comes down to it. Prove me wrong, Buffalo. I'm not rooting for it, but prove me wrong. That's kind of where I'm at. So I like both favorites, although I think Washington, they cover, and they actually have, to me, I would actually not be shocked if they won, whereas I'd be a little more surprised, I think, if the Bills won, as crazy as that sounds, because Allen has had a great year, and they beat him in the regular season.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, man. Washington has been a joy to watch. You talk about, when I think of Washington, I think of, new owner. Look at that. And a franchise quarterback helps. But what's your thoughts of these games coming up, Ryan? Who you got?
Yeah, I agree with Jake. I think I would definitely take the points on Washington. I'd actually take them to win outright. I do think they wind up beating the Eagles. You have Hurts a little banged up right now. I think the energy is on the side of the Commanders, even though that Eagles defense is pretty stout. I think on the AFC side of things, I'm actually pulling for the Bills. I cannot stand the Chiefs. I think.
Wow, really?
Wow.
I am. I'm pulling for
man.
I'm pulling for the Bills to make the Super Bowl just so they can lose their fifth one in the Super Bowl. That's the only reason I'm pulling for them, aside from not wanting to see Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I'm kind of over the Taylor Swift, Kelsey thing. I think I enjoy watching Josh Allen play, so I wouldn't mind seeing that against, the Commanders on, if that were to be the final thing. But I would say, I wouldn't touch, from a betting perspective, the Bills-Chiefs game, and I would take the Commanders outright to win.
All right, Bills fans, go check out Jets Talk 24/7, rebranding to Bills Talk 24/7 in the offseason. Matt, who do you got in these games?
I'm gonna take the chalk pick and say both home teams with the Chiefs and the Eagles. I do think the Bills. I think they have the better chance of the road teams to win. They beat Kansas City in the regular season. They've beaten them in the regular season a few times. Haven't been able to get over the hump. Maybe this is the year that they finally do it and do get over the hump and go to the Super Bowl. But it's so hard for me to pick against Patrick Mahomes. See him and the Chiefs, they just always find a way in the playoffs. I think it's likely that they go back. I think it's likely that they three-peat also, which I know is a very boring chalk answer, but until proven wrong, I don't know how I'm going to pick against them.
Yeah, I mean, I cashed out on the Chiefs last year. I picked them to win. I put money on it, and I've cashed out. Thank you, BetUS. I was like, woo! I am not doing that this year. But another layer of this whole Chiefs thing that I'm curious if you guys feel the same way as me with the Jets, as a Jets fan perspective. Obviously, they're annoying. They're 2-time champions, 3-time total with Mahomes, with the chance to be three-peats. But, there's a part of me that's pulling for the Chiefs. Because screw the Patriots and their dynasty. If there ever was a chance for a new dynasty to overlap, to surpass them, it's the Chiefs. And the only reason why I'm doing that is the Jets are out and there's no impact. Obviously, there's the Taylor Swift effect and the refs and Mahomes maybe flopping. By the way, Josh Allen flops 20 times more.
Yes, he does.
But I'm just curious, is there any parts of you guys that knows what I'm saying? It's screw the Patriots and their dynasty. You kind of want to see another team take over their dynasty or not?
I feel that, but I don't want any part of another AFC dynasty. I want the Jets to have a shot. So no, I do not want the Chiefs to be a dynasty.
How about you guys?
Win one more and then go away. 3 in a row.
There you go.
Andy Reid retire, Travis Kelce retire, and then go away.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they beat the Bills and lose in the Super Bowl. That's where I'm at. I don't even want to risk the Bills getting there and then losing, Ryan, to your point, because the one thing the Jets do have over the Bills is they've never won a Super Bowl. I don't want to risk that. So I just want to see Buffalo not even get a chance to end that.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's going to be interesting. Huge fan of what Washington's doing. I hate the Eagles. Actually, I don't hate the Eagles. I take that back. I hate the Philadelphia 76ers and the Philadelphia Phillies. So I hate the Eagles just because of those two teams and they're the same fan bases. So screw them. Hopefully they lose, but I do have them winning. As much as I love the dynamic and the rookie of Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn, I just feel like the Eagles are one of those teams that everybody's been doubting all year, and they just keep winning. And no one's talking enough about Saquon Barkley. I think the job that he's done over there is awesome. The whole devalued narrative of the running back position, he's kind of proving nah, bro, I can be a big reason for winning. Do you guys think I had a discussion with Dan and TD on the huddle yesterday about this. Do you guys think the free agent acquisition of Derrick Henry for Baltimore, the free agent acquisition of Saquon Barkley, and the jobs they've done, add in Joe Mixon going to Houston, add in Josh Jacobs going to Green Bay, all free agent guys, does that add a little bit more value to the running back position, knowing how devalued it's been these past few years?
I mean, it's always been a valuable position. I just think there's so many good running backs that it's devalued from a contract perspective. So does the running back provide value to teams that are trying to go over the top? Sure. Maybe that helps us in the event you want to trade any of your running backs down the line, but I don't know if it necessarily helps from a contract standpoint for them.
Yeah, and this year's free agent class at running back is terrible. Not that the Jets need one. We're pretty much set. Unless
the draft is stacked.
And the draft is stacked. Is Brees, and I don't want to hate talking about this, but is Brees and Garrett happy to be Jets? Are they here next year? Are they going to be one of those people that demand trades? Jake, what's your thoughts? Because I got a lot of people telling me that, Garrett Wilson's going to get traded and he's gone and Brees Hall's gone. Do you see a world where that happens?
I don't think they're going to be traded. I think that's not going to happen. It could happen if they keep losing, though. I think they're going to give this new regime a chance, though. I do. Mm-hmm. And Glenn being a former player, I think really helps kind of mend any doubt and relationships there, because I do think there's going to be some buy-in, at least initially. But I don't think either one of those guys are going to be traded. I think every key member from that 2022 draft class are Jets going into the 2025 season.
How about you, Matt? Are you holding out hope that both Garrett? I mean, also, I'll ask you a separate question. Is GW getting extended, or is he going to want to have another year to test this regime first before he signs an extension?
I mean, I think that'd be one of the first things I'm doing as a new GM is giving him a contract extension. I think that's the exact guy that I'd want to build around on my team. So I would really hope that he does get a contract extension. I don't know about Breece Hall if he gets a deal done, but I do think he's here this year, and I would expect a bounce back season from him. I know it was tough for him last year, but I would think the new offense runs the ball a little bit more, which is a much added bonus.
A very underrated element to the New York Jets with this new regime that they're inheriting, which is a breath of fresh air to say, is their offensive line actually has a core here. I think we have 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen under contract, and the only one that's not is Morgan Moses, who I'd love to bring back and just draft a guy. Like, do you guys think this offensive line is actually going to be good next year if they stay healthy with Olu and AVT and those boys? Because I feel like what Aaron Glenn is inheriting at the offensive line is pretty darn good. The best offensive line the Jets have had in a long time.
Can I just get my thoughts on Garrett Wilson and Breece real quick?
Oh, please. I don't want to hear it. You're negative about that. I know he's going to Houston. I don't think either one gets traded. I think at the very earliest, you're looking at the trade deadline potentially, like if the season goes south and you want to make a move for Breece. But I think if you were to bring in like a Clint Kubiak or even Nick Caley, you look at the running backs under those offensive coordinators and those staffs, they perform really well. So like Kamara down in New Orleans, I would like to see that. As far as Garrett, I'd be on board with signing into a contract extension. I don't know if it's going to get done. I think they let Cortland Sutton go into the final year of his deal before giving him his contract. And I don't know where Judy was on his deal when they moved him, but I would think there's going to be like a 1-year wait period because you don't want to set the precedent of signing a guy too early because then every single first round prospect is going to look for the same type of benefit. So I think you're setting the tone and looking for, everyone to buy in first and foremost. As far as the offensive line, I agree. I would love to bring Morgan Moses back. There's a few guys over the course of the offseason that I do want the Jets to target. Primarily Jedrick Wills, the left tackle from the Browns. His contract voids. He has left tackle, right tackle experience. He started all 3 years at Alabama at right tackle before going to the Browns and being a left tackle for them. He's only like 26 or 27 years old, could be the future at the tackle position beyond Morgan Moses if you wanted to do that. I'd also want to take a stab at a tackle in the draft. Ozzie Trapilo from Boston College is a left tackle, right tackle hybrid, 6'8", also has a little bit of guard experience. Going to be down at the Senior Bowl, Richie, so definitely try to keep an eye on him. Those are the guys that I would like to try to key in on for tackle. Interesting stuff. I'm excited to get into draft talk with you guys, but we can't handle draft talk right now, even though, I'm going to be the Senior Bowl, like you said, Ryan. So I got to be in draft mode because I'm not. I got to wait to see our GM is first before I can talk about the draft, but I'm going to be in Alabama Monday. So wish me luck. But guys, this has been a lot of fun. Matt, Jake, and Ryan, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. This is a big day for Jets land, potentially hiring our next GM. If you guys want to let the people know where they can find you, what you guys got cooked up on your respective YouTube channels and shows this weekend and stuff. Matt, I'll start off with you, bro.
Yeah, at Matt O'Leary NY on social media and on YouTube. I just had a video go out on my reaction of the GM hire right before we hopped on. So make sure to check that out. And we'll just react to whatever news, whether it be GM or coaching stuff we get in the coming days.
Let's go. Matt O'Leary, appreciate you. Jake, how about you? What you got cooked up?
Daily content. Who knows? I guess waiting for the official Schefter tweet on a GM, but I'll be live at Radio Row, though, Super Bowl week as well. So working on some big name guests for that in New Orleans. So that's not this coming week, but the following week, getting set for the game out there. So Jet stuff every day and some Super Bowl stuff that week as well, which will be fun.
Just put Matt's video in the chat, guys. Go check out Matt O'Leary's newest video talking about the newest GM potentially for the Jets. And Jake, so Radio Row, there's a lot of we couldn't get a spot at Radio Row, Roundtable Sports, unfortunately. We just got the email yesterday.
Really?
We don't have a dedicated space because they said like due to high demand, but we have access to Radio Row, but we don't have a dedicated space.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's always open tables, so don't listen to the NFL. Just find one that's
all right.
vacant. And
that's all I need to hear. I'm a rookie, Jake, on this. You got to help me. I don't know what's going to happen.
Don't worry, man. I got you. It's not as tedious as it might appear.
Cool. It's going to be exciting. Ryan, how about you, bro?
Yeah, going to be talking all offseason stuff, the hires that come into this, and all the draft prospects, the combine, all the good things in the offseason. I'll have my mock. I did my mock offseason as if Aaron Rodgers were not here. I'm going to do a mock offseason as if Rodgers is here. You kind of give an idea of who you could bring in and how this team could look going into 2025.
Awesome. Make sure you guys go check out Ryan, Jake, and Matt's YouTube channels. This is the AFC East Roundtable. We appreciate you guys big time tuning in. Big shout out to BetUS again for sponsoring today's show. Welcome to the New York Jets, Aaron Glenn. Do I say welcome to Darren Mougey yet? It's still not official, but yeah, we're going to welcome him. We're all making videos and talking about it, so we're running with you, Josina Anderson. Your job is on the line, all right? Come on now. Peace out, everybody. Love you all. Let's go Jets, and we'll see you next time.